Barloworld reporting a solid performance.
Thanks, Stephen. Indeed, that is correct, that Barloworld has reported solid results, and they've seen revenue going up by 13.6% and also declaring a dividend. We are joined now virtually by Barloworld CEO, that is Dominic Sewela. Thank you so much for your time, Dominic. You describe these financials as solid. Talk us through the highlights then.
Thank you very much. I guess one of the key highlights, one has to look at. This time around, I have to choose which one, but Avis, rent-a-car still stands out as the highlight if you look on a comparable basis to 2020, H1 2021 as well. But another highlight is obviously the equipment business, particularly when it comes to return. It's been a business that has been working towards, achieving returns to a hurdle rate. This time around, they've exceeded. And, obviously Russia has been performing, over the number of years, notwithstanding that the war started on the 24th of February, to 6 months, the Eurasian team has delivered, phenomenal results.
Talking about the developments in terms of geopolitics, mentioning that conflict between Russia and Ukraine, how have you been affected, and what's the near-term outlook then, given all the dynamics that come into play with the global economy?
I guess, if you think about, where, we are being affected as a company, because we have a fully fledged, business running out of Siberia, which is far away from where the war is actually taking place. But notwithstanding, due to the sanctions that have been imposed by the US, UK, and Europe, we obviously cannot trade in certain products, that we can't also trade with certain customers. So the toughest part of this is that our employees have to focus in complying with the various, restrictions, and therefore we had to cancel orders that were placed on us by customers, and largely because, we cannot be importing product from the US, and therefore, the environment is rather tough for the employees, so all we can do as the executive is to make sure that we support them, physically and emotionally, because it's a tough time, and making sure that the business, we manage it like it's in a trough where you contain costs, make sure that you optimize, working capital, and also prevent the cash burn. And that's what the Russian team is currently focused on.
With all those elements attributed, Dominic, let's also talk about your business model, because essentially expansion has been linked to Barloworld for quite some time. Any new plans of acquisitions or any other elements of business interest that you may have in the near term?
Now that we are finalizing the exit of the Avis business, I think the platform is set for an acquisitive growth. I think if you look at, the platform we've been building, is that, as you get into acquisition, it's important that you achieve returns that, exceed, shareholder expectation. And I think, for the first time in many years, we've hit a return on equity of about 16.9%, and we are able to generate cash. Our business system is operational. We will be looking at acquiring more businesses in the consumer industry space, as well as the industrial services space, to bolt on to the two existing, businesses that being ingrain and equipment overall.
And the dividend has been declared. How have shareholders responded?
I guess, shareholders can never say no to dividends, our belief is that, whenever we have excess cash, if we don't have clever ideas to deal with it, we need to return it back to shareholders. And I think if you remember last year, we declared a massive dividend, particularly the special dividend. This time, we're saying we're normalizing our dividend. We're also a bit cautious in terms of saying we don't know how long, the impact of the war in Ukraine would last into Russia. So prudence becomes very important. So we paid within our dividend cover policy of between 2.5 to 3 times.
Quite interesting, because you talk of being prudent. We noticed earlier on that the Barloworld share price dipped a bit following the outcome of the results this time around. How do you respond to that?
I guess if I knew how the market reacts, you wouldn't be talking to me, because I'll be making money in the market. The market is a funny, place to be in. And I think, whenever you look at what happens in the market, it's got to be in the greater context of what's happening globally. I think you would have seen that, globally, the market is turning downward due to inflationary issues coming out of the U.S. And I think generally a lot of people are very nervous about, how long the impact of the Ukraine war is going to be. Therefore, the challenges in China in terms of them clamping, having a zero tolerance to COVID, all those, are playing into the psyche of the market. But for me, and what I say to my management team, the market is a scoreboard that you watch every now and then, but fundamentally, you've got to see what's going on intrinsically, operationally. And when you look at intrinsically what Barloworld has delivered is exceptional.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Dominic Sewela is the CEO at Barloworld, talking us through positive results for the first half of this year.